And moving into our next segment around another company with an interesting showcase. Nintendo Direct Mini. So we had a partner showcase this week. Again, coming out of the blue. There were some rumors that there was going to be another Direct. I'm not sure if they're talking about this or maybe a larger Direct. But yeah, like as we normally do, starting with the biggest thing from this event, which was really the announcement of two major new games. So Monster Hunter Rise and Monster Hunter Stories 2. So I thought this was really cool. And, I think a lot of people have kind of, I guess with the focus on Monster Hunter World and everything that series has done and the quality of life improvements. And that's really almost like a bit of a spin-off of Monster Hunter itself, have kind of forgotten about the traditional Monster Hunter games. And these games, it's a massive franchise. Like, Nintendo had worked with Capcom so much on these games and even, kind of really like pushing these games as part of the 3DS and the new 3DS. So yeah, I guess this was quite overdue in a way, but we are looking at a traditional Monster Hunter game and this one on the Switch. So coming out on March 26, 2021. Have you ever played these Monster Hunter games?
So I put a lot of time in Monster Hunter World. I won't say I did everything I wanted to do. I was at the point where I was thinking about wrapping up some of the stuff and then moving to the Iceborne content. So I essentially got up to where I was working on some of the master rank stuff, and I loved my time in Monster Hunter World. Because I haven't played the older ones, I've coming into it with some of those quality of life we're talking about. I imagine that depending on what they do and don't bring across, it might be jarring for some people that are starting with Monster Hunter World to go back to, I guess, maybe some of the more traditional systems. But from the looks of it, this is adding a whole lot more that World doesn't have. So this has a lot more vertical movement than any Monster Hunter World, I believe. A lot more around the acrobatic.
Any Monster Hunter?
Yeah, any Monster Hunter. So like running up mountains and things like that. That's something that you're doing in the other games. If there was one particular game, then obviously feel free to call us out in the comments. But the thing with this is there was, a lot more about, I guess, the acrobatics, of actually getting onto the monsters. Some of that stuff was definitely there for some weapon types, and they added, in Iceborne, they added, like a grappling hook shot thing that you could get onto the monster's back a lot easier. Seems like they're just going ham on that, and they're making this kind of just its own kind of unique thing in a lot of ways. It looks cool. Anyone that says, it looks a bit rough or whatever compared to World, well, first of all, not only is it on the Switch, but also go and take a look at the last game that was on the Switch. I can't remember the exact name of it, but
Generations.
This is definitely a big jump up from that. So it's great to get a full-fledged new Monster Hunter title on the Switch. And I've heard really great things about the next game as well, or at least the first of the next, the sequel, the one that this was the sequel to.
Story sequel, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to think of a way to say it without still allowing you to say Monster Hunter Stories 2, but we're past that point.
Yeah, and before we move on to that, like Rise, it's kind of funny because Monster Hunter became a, handheld series, and that's where the mainline series was. And, I don't know why I care about this stuff, but I really care about, what is the main series versus what's the spin-off series versus, what do all these other things mean? And, at least from people's, perspective on, what they're saying, they're actually saying Monster Hunter World is now the mainline series. So, it started with the PS2 with Monster Hunter and eventually landed on the 3DS with Monster Hunter 4. But yeah, now, at least when I'm looking at it, it looks like they're saying World is the continuation. So it's almost like Monster Hunter 5 in that perspective.
It's quite arbitrary, though. I mean, they're just...
I know, I care about this. I don't know why. and I felt like Rise, to me, was kind of the next in the mainline series, but it kind of is. Again, it's all semantics and what you think is canon, and by the way, canon can change. But I don't I'm actually seriously thinking about picking up this game, and I'm a very pro Switch gamer just because it really matches my lifestyle, being able to play a game and then just put it into sleep any stage and then jump right back into it instantly. That's hugely appealing to me as a dad. So I don't know. I'm kind of looking at it. I'm thinking I might get this game. The
Yeah,
only thing is, I think in Australia, these games have always been really highly priced.
I'll just say about that whole pick up and play, put to sleep. I don't know if that's really Monster Hunter though. Like when you're out on a hunt, like though that stuff can sometimes take a while. Depending, some of those.
Yeah, but it's not online, right?
Well, there is co-op, but you don't have to do it co-op. But the idea is, I'm just going to put this to sleep, unless, like, I could be wrong about the version they put to Switch previously, but the game's not. I'm saying it's not like it's not as put to sleep as you think. That's all. It's like a game where you have to kind of put like at least half an hour into it each run or something. From my experience with World, anyway, you can definitely.
I mean,
when you get up to the like later on and you're super powerful and you can clear some of the battles like in 5-10 minutes, definitely. But I'm just saying, just maybe keep in mind that there's times when, especially if you start dabbling in the co-op, where that stuff can sometimes sink a bit of time in.
Yeah. Look, I think everyone's different. Like, I'm really good at, like, even if I'm in the middle of a battle on the Switch, I'm more than happy to just press the power button, bang, go do whatever, and then pick it up 5 hours later and just get right back into it. Like, that's never bothered me at all. And it's honestly one of the best features of the Switch. It's almost like a killer feature for me that, if you're playing an online game, that's totally different, but game like this, I could just pause at any time. It doesn't matter, and then just get back straight into it. I'm just wired like that.
I'm just not sure how that works with this, so I'll just say maybe just.
But what do you mean? But like, I just press the power button and then I just press it again and it'll turn on.
Yeah, I'm just saying maybe just do a bit of research on that before you assume it's going to work exactly like that. It might actually cancel.
But every Switch game has to work like that. Apart from the online games, every single Switch game has to work like that. It's a part of publishing a game on the Switch.
But it could, for instance, if you power button and come back in, it could have ended your hunt or something, and then you've...
Nah, not if it's... only if it's online.
Okay, I'll just say do some research and look into it first, that's all. So.
No, I don't know if I've ever heard of a single-player game doing that on the Switch. Like, I think it's literally part of the way the game... Like, if you want to publish a single-player... Like, a non-online game, like, you have to do it like that. I'm just trying to think... Animal Crossing is probably the only one that I can think of.
Okay, I'm just giving you a heads up. Maybe just check out and confirm that's the case. That's all.
Yeah, no. It's a good point. Yeah, because like I said, the only game that I can think of is Animal Crossing. That if you do that, it really screws up with the game.
I guess it also.
I can't think of any other game.
I will say it also depends as well if because you can. With World, at least, you can create an online session even if you're the only person in it, so you can get things like the daily challenges and the rewards for the day. And in that case, I've never tried, for instance, being in the middle of a hunt and just like putting my Xbox to sleep and coming back and seeing what happens, because the hunts generally have time limits and things. So I'm just wondering if at that point it just goes, you left the hunt or something when you come back on. So I'm not sure how that would work on there, but. Anyway, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, I do know that like the whole sleep mode for Switch is designed differently than PS4 and Xbox One, like in terms of what a port has to comply with. Because I know that even like Doom, when it released initially, they weren't complying with what they needed to, and they actually needed to update the game to be able to, so you could just press the power button and put it into sleep mode. But I will check that, because if I can't do that, I won't pick up this game. That's like black and white for me, because like the amount of times I just need to like pause a game is just huge as a dad.
Yeah, there's no traditional pause feature, at least in World, and I'd assume it's not the case for the other ones. So you just can't pause at any time. So
okay, interesting. Interesting.
Check it out.
And I mean, like,
I just want to say about that, like, I don't want that to push you away. Like, I'm super keen on this game as well. I reckon this is a game I'd love to always play co-op in these games, whether or not that was World or not. And they're the kind of games that are made to be more fun with more people. So,
okay. Well, if you pick it up, I'll definitely pick it up then. And then the other Monster Hunter announcement, which was kind of like surprising that they had these double announcements, is Monster Hunter Stories 2. So this is a spin-off of the original that came to the 3DS, and kind of a bit of a sleeper hit on the 3DS and very, very well regarded game. It did sell okay, but not in the numbers that Monster Hunter traditionally sells, which is literally in the sort of 8 to 10 million mark. I think this is like sub a million from memory Monster Hunter stories. I think, with the Switch, and given that stories came out like relatively late in the life cycle of the 3DS, just having the audience for the Switch itself might sort of give this a bit more love. And it's a bit of a different game. You're assuming the role of the rider with the monsters. It's kind of interesting. The only thing that kind of made me kind of a bit surprised was that given that Monster Hunter Rise is coming out, and I know they're different games, but still for a lot of folk, it's like Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter Rise is coming out in like late March next year. And this is penned in, I think what they've said is like essentially winter for Australia. So it's like Q2, Q3 2021, which feels very close to when Monster Hunter Rise is coming out, don't you think?
Yeah, but they're so different. And I think
but just a naive person's not going to know the difference between these games.
But honestly, I think most of the people, I think at this point, a lot of the people buying these games are people that probably know quite a bit about the series already or have heard about it around because World was such a hit. I don't think there's any problem there. Like if you've got a kid that can only have one or the other, then obviously there's an impact there. And there's going to be times when that definitely happens. This looks cool. I almost wish the visual style of this was the visual style of Rise because it looked nicer. Like because Rise is a bit more kind of trying to be a little bit more realistic in its character models and things, but it's let's just say you look at that versus World and it definitely looks a lot rougher. Stories 2 has that stylized look to it. I'm like, man, I'd actually like to play Monster Hunter game that looks like that. But
yeah, that would actually have been interesting if they'd gone down that path. Because, we are, neither of us, like, it's a really weird one to say this because I get very obsessed about frame rate more than anything else. And then also low input lag and stuff like that. But I've never really been bothered by the Switch or like being underpowered. And, I'm more than happy to say Monster Hunter Rise, a game that I'm interested in getting, to me, it kind of looks like a really good PS3 game. Like that's, you know what I mean? Like, as if Monster Hunter was going to PS3. That's what it kind of looks like to me, like in the style that they'd be going for with that.
Yeah, there were the moments in that Rise trailer that, looked a bit rough on the frame rate, but the reason I'm not worried is because they have a history of making these for handhelds. So and I say that, obviously Switch is a hybrid console, but essentially at this point, when you're talking about Monster Hunter, it's like continuation of the handheld version of the Monster Hunter games, so.
Yeah. And it is a really good point you make, though. Like, yeah, if they'd gone for more that cel-shaded sort of look for the mainline series, again, they probably couldn't do Monster Hunter Stories 2 if they did that, just because, it would really look the same. But it would actually be pretty cool if it looked like that. Like, that would have probably been a smart way to go about it. And one thing out of this Monster Hunter Direct, and very much the most important thing out of this Monster Hunter